Sign up to The Economist for in-depth curated expert analysis of world events and topics ranging from business and culture to science and technology. You'll get the weekly digital edition, online-only articles, curated newsletters on politics, the markets, science, culture and China, and full access to The Economist Podcast Plus. The Economist is independent journalism for independent thinking. Go to economist.com and get your first month free.
This program contains subject matter and language that may be disturbing to some viewers. Your discretion is advised.
Savaged, unfiltered. Your host, Michael Gardner.
Welcome to Savaged Unfiltered. I am your host, Michael Gardner. Guys, I got a guest on the show I'm going to bring in. He's a podcast host himself, a content creator, just about everything. I've watched some of his work, some of his past episodes. The guy is funny. He does have a mixture of different content he brings into his show. And I want to see some of that content on my show. I reached out to him and, I thought he'd be a good fit for today's episode. So without further ado, guys, let's bring in Mr. David, a.k.a. PREACHERMAN. PREACHERMAN, how's it going, buddy? What's the name PREACHERMAN? Can you go into that, bud?
Yeah. So, first off, I am a youth pastor as of today. Been doing that for the last year. I also have my bachelor's degree in religious education with a concentration in pastoral studies. So that's how the PREACHERMAN comes about.
Wow, sounds pretty cool. You know, I seen PREACHERMAN come up here in the recording, and I'm like, okay, there's got to be a background to that. So that's good to know. You mentioned religion, buddy. Have you always been, a big fan of religion? How'd you come across doing that?
With my the religion I am attached to, and I don't really like to call it a religion, more of a follower of Christ, but fall up under the denomination of Christian, which many people know about Christianity. I've been a Christian basically all my life, born into it, but I always tell people that I come into contact with is that eventually as a grown individual, you have to make your own choice. So I'm not a Christian based off my parents. I'm a Christian based off of, making that decision on my own as I gotten older and became an adult. So that's how I became a Christian.
Okay, so it goes a little bit back of, childhood. I get it. On your show, I want to get into some of your content on your show. What made you get into podcasting? Have you ever been a fan of podcasting? Because I ask this question a lot, to guests, and sometimes I have, fellow podcasters on my show as well, too. And I always throw that question out, like, what made you get into the industry of podcasting or talk radio?
So what made me get into the industry more so was just the ability to express myself, being able to talk and express myself. I got into it also because I have a lot of things that I like to talk about, and being able to have your own show and being able to get on other platforms with other people such as yourself, I'm able to elaborate and get my opinion, and my opinion could help somebody else out, and it also gives other people a perspective of someone else's mind and what they might be thinking compared to just having that one opinion. So that's what really made me move into that whole arena of podcasting and radio and all of those good things.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. And just to let you know, I mean, I pretty much I welcome it all. I welcome whether they're political figures, politicians, authors, writers, actors, comedians. A lot of people, they see the term savage unfiltered. Yes, I can be a little savage sometimes, and sometimes I can be a little unfiltered. But I throw a blend at it. David, it depends on, the content I'm bringing in. I feel that, it's okay sometimes, to cuss and, just be your normal self, but it's also okay to, throw a mash into the show, so to speak. Like we're talking about, what you like doing and your interest. You mentioned religion and everything else. And I think that's tremendous. You're reaching out to people on your very spiritual, and I think that's wonderful. Like the world of podcasting today is going to a very, very large lengths, compared to talk radio. Talk radio back in the day, there was only like so many different categories. With podcasting today, there are so many categories. Like you have spiritual podcasting, you have sports, you have, pro wrestling, you have political stuff. So, I mean, what you're doing is great, and I applaud you for that.
Yep.
So, tell me a little bit more, into the background, so to speak, of yourself. Like what else do you enjoy doing besides speaking about whether it's spirituality or religion?
Yeah. So other things that I like to do, I like to travel. The reason I like to travel is one is because as a podcaster, it gives me an opportunity to just get out and see other cultures and mingle with other cultures and be able to see other lifestyles. So when I do podcasts and come onto other platforms and podcasts with other people, I'm able to understand their background, their culture. That's one of the things that I like to do. Another thing that I like to do as well is I like to work, if it makes sense. I like to help young folks understand what it is to get out here and achieve your dreams, because a lot of times a lot of people don't really get to
savaged, unfiltered.
Consider product, but they don't see what people go through when they're actually inside of being successful with their dreams. I think another thing that I like to do is I like to work. And the reason I utilize the word work, I like to get better at my craft, whatever I'm doing, whether that's gardening, whether that's podcasting, whether that's just getting out here and mingling with other people, getting in front of people and talk. I like to work. That means get my craft together and be able to bring it out in front of other people. That way, one, they can see that, hey, this guy's actually out here perfecting his craft. He's not just making it more so of a hobby. He's making it more so of something that could be a professional industry. And also, not only be a professional industry, but when people see you doing those things, they tend to want to know what does it take, and you're able to explain what it takes to perfect your craft.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's great. You hit on something that's very rare as a commodity these days, especially with the work ethic. Where the work ethic is looked at all different types of angles today, especially today's times. I could speak on that. I'm 40 years old, and just from my generation to seeing the generation today, it's altogether different. You mentioned that you like doing other things. You back in the day, we used to call that a jack of all trades. That term is basically dead today. It's very rare you see people that have a lot of interest in a lot of different things. And I love the fact that you travel. Now, when you mentioned travel, have you ever been in the military before, or you just love traveling?
So I've been in the military before. I was in the military for close to 6 years. So yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Well, thank you for your service, by the way. I always love to throw that out.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. So, some of the stuff that you mentioned on your podcast, I noticed there was a couple segments with sports, man. You want to get into that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I can expound on that. When it comes down to sports, and the reason I did a lot of some of the sports topics and different things is because, one, I love sports. That's a big thing of mine. Being able on my free time is watching sports, going to some games. Something that I also did when I was growing up was play sports. So,
okay.
When you play sports at a young age, it kind of just follows you throughout your life. And then when you start moving into different arenas of your life, and you see other sports writers or other people getting on the platforms talking about sports, sometimes you just want to add to yours and be like, hey, this is what it really is. This is what it really isn't. Because again, sometimes when you have writers, which we call journalists today, they're writing based off of what they're hearing, and then at the same time they put their own spin. So when it comes to their own spin, that's where I did when I had became or talked um, when it came down for me to talk about sports. I put my own spin on it.
Yeah, you pretty much. So more or less, I mean, you're not afraid to give the dirt sheets, so to speak, on your show, right?
Oh, I'm not.
I hear you. Because there's a lot of shows out there that Uh, don't get me wrong, guys. I mean, these are well-known, high-class shows. You got Sports Center, you got ESPN, you got all the well-known network shows. But in reality, David, I think it's an old formula, of sports talk. They're so scripted, and I mean, maybe it sounds a little harsh, but they are. It's like, if you want to watch a sports show, show reality into it, man. Show like, shit, that guy just, took a hard left on the 49-yard line, versus, you hear, Mike and Mike or, somebody on ESPN saying, that guy looks very, very hurt. Hopefully he doesn't have a concussion. You know what I mean? You see the scripted right there? So, yeah. But, yeah, it's good stuff. I cover sports sometimes on my show, and it's not my expertise. I love covering political viewpoints because, as a young man, I was born into it. I had two parents, man, that, that literally, like, I mean, I think they sweated politics out of their veins, because they were always talking about like, shit, Ronald Reagan's going to give us some good jobs and this and that, and shit, I hope the stock market doesn't go down. And like after hearing that for like 15, 16 years of my life, I'm like, okay. So yeah. But you ever get into political viewpoints on your show? I don't see too much of it. I see a little bit, not too much.
You said my political viewpoint?
Yeah, yeah. Like, what do you see yourself? Like, especially in today's times?
I want to say I don't really assert myself with any political group, whether Democrat, Republic, Independent. If I had to, it'd be independent. One is because being able to have your own mind. Democrat and Republic have been around for so many years, and you really have to understand when you decide that you're going to either be a Democrat or a Republican, what are you really getting yourself into? And
yeah.
I think that a lot of people don't really understand what they're getting themselves into when it comes to a Democrat or being a Republican, because it's so much history behind it all, and you don't want to put yourself in a position or join something, your morals or your values that you have in your life, not fully understanding, okay, what is the Democrat, what is a Republican. So that's why I say I would prefer to be on the independent side.
Yeah, I think that's some of the disconnect we're seeing today in today's society. Everybody is, constantly questioning the status, your political status. Like, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? Are you conservative? It's looked at very highly today in today's society than it was, 20, 30 years ago. I just had a discussion with, I was on a show the other day, affiliated with the Bubba Love Sponge, Tuttle, actually. And we had this discussion, and, constantly coming back at me. It was like, like, what do you fit yourself? I'm like, I don't, I like politics. I just, I don't really see myself, I mean, I've always been a Republican. Don't get me wrong, but the political, message today in America, it's so divided now. Where if you don't agree with an agenda, they're like, and this is on both sides, David. Like they're ready to throw the hammer at you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So it's good stuff. So tell me a little bit more, man. The floor is yours. Don't be shy, man. You want to add anything? Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I would say a little bit more about me is I'm a high school coach, coach high school football, Been doing that for the last 4 years. I've done a little bit of work throughout my time with the juvenile justice. I worked in adult corrections. I, I've worked or been in the military. And I can honestly say I had some great times. I met some great people.
Hey guys, this show is now on Amazon Music and Audible. That's right. Gonna want to check us out on Amazon Audible and Amazon Music. Great set of platforms. We are so honored and grateful to be part of the Amazon team. And we're honored that they are allowing us to be launched on those two major platforms. So thank you to our new friends here on Amazon Music and Audible.
Unfiltered.
A lot of people don't really understand leadership today, and I see that it has a big it's a big issue in the workplace when you have people who are in charge that don't know leadership, don't know how to don't really know how to mix with different cultures and diversity. And diversity is a big thing in the workplace today, where everybody's like, hey, they want a diverse group, they want diverse CEOs, they want diverse when it comes to males, females, black, white, Indian, and all these other different races. And as I, throughout my time of working, I found out that a lot of people don't really even know how to work in a diverse environment. A lot of people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just want to make a notation, David. You're coming in a little low. I'm not sure if you're speaking on a cell phone or what, but if you could just turn the mic up just a little bit so the listeners and everything, the audience can hear you a little bit. But I mean, I completely understand, especially in, society today, like I said, it's highly diverse. There's the culture today in America doesn't really exist. Every culture, every nation, in this world has a culture. We don't have a culture here. It's looked at so differently today. There's so much disrespect. There's so much hatred in this world. Stuff that, you probably hear from your grandparents, like 30 years ago when you were a kid. I don't know how old you are, but, like when I was a kid, my grandparents, this is some of the stuff they would warn me about. Oh, wait till you get to, 40, 50 years old. It's going to be so much different. People are going to be, expressing themselves different. And I'm like 8, maybe like fucking 10 years old or something. And they're like, I'm just being a kid. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, grandma. You don't want to hear that stuff. And then you get to, my age now, 40, and it's like, shit, man. It's altogether different. You got people that, this has been a long going thing, and I'm sorry guys, if I'm going to offend you, I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan of people, wearing pants below their ass, that's like, and then stuff too, and it's just, man, I feel bad for the next generation. Like, oh boy.
Oh yeah. Same here.
And then, speaking of, you got into, you said, so you're in law enforcement, or I didn't hear that last part. Go ahead.
So I did a little bit of working inside of like prison facilities and working with juvenile justice. I did both of those. I'm actually getting back into the juvenile justice realm. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good stuff, man. Like you're doing it all, dude. You're doing podcasting. You said you have a high involvement in your church community, and now you're doing, part of the juvenile system as a, so you're basically like a detention officer then, right? Correct?
So with that job is more so of juvenile transportation, dealing with juveniles who are right now being held at a detention facility, but at the same time, these kids can be sent up to the adult court, because all it takes is their case being pushed up to the adult level. So if their case is pushed up, then that's when we'll take those kids up to the adult level. And it is all, again, based on their age and everything like that. So a lot of different things going into the factor on that whole movement.
Wow. And I'm sure you see it all, like different backgrounds of these kids. If I may ask, like, is there like programs for this? Like, where they, I know, these kids are committing crimes and everything. They're not looked as severely as, as an adult. I'm sure some of it's very petty though, like maybe, kid maybe stealing bubble gum or something from a 7-Eleven. I mean, I'm just using that for example, but, is there any programs within this facility you work at where, they're willing to help them so they don't stay in these facilities for a long time?
So what it is in these facilities is there are places where these kids are housed. They're housed inside of a detention center within the state. These kids are also placed in different custody. So some are in group homes, some of them are in different levels of things. Some of them go home, but when it all boils down, some of them don't want to be how do I put it? They don't want to be in these environments, if it makes sense. They're only in those environments due to situations and circumstances.
Oh, okay. And is there like it's interesting because I hope I'm not making you uncomfortable by saying these questions here, David. But okay, yeah, I never had a gentleman on the show that specializes in this type of industry. With this type of program, now things are different now. Obviously, we're in the 21st century. When I was younger, we used to have programs because I grew up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I reside now in Florida, Central Florida. Okay. But when I was living in the Lower East Side, especially like the tri-state area, New Jersey, New York, we had we called it juvie, but it was really like juvenile hall. Is it designed that way, or is it a little different?
I want to say it's can you expound on just a little bit on when you mean by the juvenile law, like just so I can make sure that I'm not in the wrong ballpark?
Oh yeah, of course. Juvenile hall was basically, it wasn't set up as a like a jail or a prison type of environment. It was more or less set up as almost like an outreach program where these children would go through like basic steps. Almost if you were going to like a halfway house as an adult or through some type of Christianity program, if you're suffering from alcoholism or narcotics, you would go through these steps. And these children would have to go through the process, and each week they would graduate from a certain process. Now, sometimes if they didn't graduate, it would be like high school or middle school. You wouldn't go to the next grade, right? That was the same scenario. These kids were given like weekly little tests at the end of the week. Now, if they pass, they go to process 2, and then obviously process 3 until, they graduate from that program, and then they're released back to either their parent or their guardian that was taking care of them. Is it similar to that?
It's a little bit, but the difference is in North Carolina, there's this thing called Tar Heel Challenge. So like kids can opt to go to Tar Heel Challenge, where they'll go there, get their education, and instead of them being in a standard school, whether that's in middle school, high school, they'll be in Tar Heel Challenge. And Tar Heel Challenge is, like you were saying, on the lines of what you were saying, it's like they'll graduate and then they move on with their life. And again, when they do not go to Tar Heel Challenge, some can stay inside of the detention center. Now, they'll still be given their education, but it'll be inside the detention center. And then you have some who do go home. So they're released from the detention center and able to go back home long as they don't get into any more trouble. And then these kids also have probation officers. So it's a big system. So they all have different levels and places they can go, if it makes sense.
Wow. I mean, it's so much different now, like, oh, yeah. Wow. And I'm sure you see, like I said, different backgrounds of kids coming in. Now, what's the highest age that this facility pretty much welcomes in? I guess up to 17 years old, correct?
So about 17, 16, 17, Once they turn 17, it's kind of almost like they're going to be moved up into the adult court. So again, it all depends on what they did and what the crime was.
Yeah, of course, and I'm sure. I mean, it sounds like a tremendous program. Basically, it's I guess it's on a federal level, or is it like pretty much like a state level?
So I would say it's more on a state level, but I do believe they do get federal funding for different things.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, hopefully these kids today, they get their acts together, and back in the day we used to have these programs. We used to have these programs back in the day. I think there was a TV show. What the hell? Mackenzie, what was that TV show? The Boot Camp. Yeah. The Boot Camp. Do you remember like the Boot Camp shows that they aired out? It was like maybe like early 90s or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, they got to bring them back, man, because I mean, I think again, folks, please, this is me. I'm old tradition. I'm not a millennial. I think what the hell's behind a millennial, right? It's like a Generation X or some shit like that. But half these kids today, I think, David. Okay, I think they need a good ass whooping. I do. Because I think that's the discipline. It's not shown there. And these kids, are some of them. And I just had this discussion, with a good friend of mine the other day. And he had said the same thing, like these children today, like 60% of them, man, are growing up without a father.
Yeah.
And if you grow up without a father, you're missing the discipline part. You're getting the love from the parent, yeah, but you're missing the discipline.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's terrible what I see today in society. I feel for these kids, because like this generation, like they have everything in the grasp of their hand. Like they have so much shit that I didn't have, technology, exactly. Everything, man. So, good stuff. We're going to close it out here, probably about another 10 minutes. Is there anything you wanted to add before we close it out there, David?
I want to piggyback just a little bit on what you were talking about like the kids and things like that. I think, like you were saying, the kids do need that discipline. That's the biggest thing that we're finding in the world today. And again, it goes because and a lot of it has to do with the political system. There's a political system that, controls the parent, tells the parent this is what you need to do. This is what you don't need to do. This is what your kid, the kid has right as far as if they get in a spanking, they can call the cops, say, hey, my parents abusing me. And then they'll remove that child from the home. And then the parents go through this whole legal process. So, yeah, the world needs to find this medium. I think that the world right now is just allowing everything. It's almost like a chaotic place because, again, there's no structure. It's based off of money now and profit. If there's a way that companies or the cities, the counties, and the government can all make money, they're definitely going to make the money. They're going to put things in place to make that money. So that's what I wanted to just throw in on that one, on that tail end right there.
So you think that's the disconnect, right? I see it. I definitely see it. But don't you think some of it has to do with like the media influence too, as well?
Yeah, media. Because these kids, again, they don't really know what these people go through. All they see is, music, the entertainment industry, the fame, the money, the jewelry, and they don't understand what it takes to get there. Some of that stuff is leased stuff anyway. It's not even bought. They're leasing it or renting it. So the cars you see in videos, those are rented cars. Those are not their personal cars, but a lot of people their personal cars.
Yeah, man. I say the same thing. Yeah, like all these people are like, oh man, look at that guy. He's driving a fucking Lamborghini and everything else. I'm like, dude, that's not his, man. It's like through his agency, man.
Exactly.
It's a freaking prop, dude. It's not his. It's there to make it look great on camera. I mean, this is all Hollywood. What you see, the reality shows you see on TV, that's fake. You actually think they live like that?
No.
You know? I mean, you clearly see it like every single day. I mean, I was just watching an episode the other day with a good friend of mine. This wrestler. What the hell is this? Michael Mizanin. He goes by the Miz on WWE.
Yeah.
And him and his wife are arguing about some stupid shit. And, the two like babies come in and everything. And then the old mother and the father are like arguing and bickering about something. And my friend's like glued to it. And he's like, dude, did you just see what happened? I was like, yeah, man, that's great acting, ain't it? He's like, that's not acting. That's real. I was like, no, dude, it's fake. It's a reality show, though. I was like, no, that's what they call reality shows. Hence, reality show is the opposite of reality. It's not really reality. So, yeah, crazy stuff, man. Okay. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I with the kid scenario, society, media today, politicians acting crazy. We just had something here in Florida. I'm not sure exactly where you reside, but we just had a big thing happen with DeSantis. Busting migrants, man. I wanted to get into it with you. It was one of my notations I wanted to bring onto the show. What do you think about that, man?
I think that, and when I reside in North Carolina, but I think that when it comes to that whole different thing is you got to understand people, and what might work 20, 30 years ago doesn't work today. As you said earlier, it's the 21st century. And if you don't understand that and you're trying to play your cards by, again, the 20, 30 years ago rules.
The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country. Their victories have not been your victories. Their triumphs have not been your triumphs. That all changes starting right here and right now. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. It's going to be only America first, by American and higher American. No challenge can match the heart and fight and spirit of America. We will not fail. Our country will thrive and prosper again. We will reinforce old alliances and form new ones and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism, which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. We will be protected by the great men and women of our military and law enforcement. We will bring back our jobs. We will bring back our borders. We will bring back our wealth. And we will bring back our dreams. We will face challenges. We will confront hardships. But we will get the job done. Together, we will determine the course of America and the world for many, many years to come. This moment is your moment. It belongs to you.
Then you're going to mess up because people mindsets are different today, and people are more like, look, like, you can't be doing stuff like that, because, again, it gives off bad impression.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, but in all reality, they are coming into the country illegally. I mean, don't you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. But you know what? As they come in illegally, somebody profiting off of all of this. Because it's been happening for many years and centuries, and nothing hasn't stopped yet. So, I don't mean to cut in, but I mean, you watch videos of these migrants, coming into the border, and I said this on my show the other day, and guys, I want to remind the listeners, I do have a heart. I'm not cruel, but right now in our society, we really don't have the financial aid to be spending money on migrants that are coming into this country. I understand a point, David, where they're coming into the country and they're trying to, come into the country for better opportunity, but some of the video that's surfacing
It's almost like a sympathy clause. You see them like painted by like CNN, and then what is it, Don Lemon, and then all these anchors are like, oh, they've been walking for thousands of miles. Oh, yeah, right. Not when you see like branded shoes on their sneakers, Nikes, like what the hell, those fancy looking backpacks that they're wearing. I mean, come on, guys. Look at it. They're private helicopters getting dropped off probably 3 or 4 miles from the border, and then boom, there goes the cameras. There's the Hollywood Hollywood set right in. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, exactly.
So I mean, I agree with DeSantis. Doing what he's doing. He's protecting the state, and I hope other governors, man, they do the same thing, because I mean, we have a fentanyl issue right now in this country. More kids are getting hooked on the fentanyl. I looked at the latest poll, and it's like 300 deaths right now of fentanyl. That's crazy. Yeah. That's a third.
Oh yeah.
And
you look at it.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You look at it, and it makes you wonder. Just question certain things. How does certain things get into this country? Everything goes through borders and border patrol, which is a federal agency. And I understand as humans, they're not going to catch everything, but how does it get in to the point where it's creating these deaths? Like you're saying, all these people are dying from it, and it seems like it's okay.
Well, see, they paint the picture with the kid, right? You see the video surfacing, right? And these people, I mean, they're so great of an actor, and they'll put that face on, and they'll put the kid right into the camera, and it's almost like a sympathy clause, like we want to feel sorry for them and everything. Folks, listen, we have issues in this country. Like I said, I'm not cruel. I think we need to put our people first. You know what I mean, David?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we do.
Put our people first, and then worry about other countries. And then if we get to that point, I think we'll be a better society and a nation. Yeah. Now, you got Republicans that are getting literally hammered right now by the liberal left. And they're like, oh, well, DeSantis is inhumane, and, he doesn't have a heart. And he just, put 50 or 100 migrants the other day on a private jet up to Martha's Vineyard, Oh yeah. And they're going crazy. They're begging for federal aid, more money coming out of my pocket and your pocket, taxpayers' money.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, you cry about the inflation. I mean, what do you think it's going to do now? You cry about the deficit. What do you think it's going to do now? It's going to double it. It's going to quadruple it.
Exactly.
We have more homeless vets on the freaking streets right now, and then you have your your government putting out aid to illegal immigrants. Don't you see the problem and the issues we have for this country?
Oh yeah.
It's two sides. It's not one side. It's two sides. Oh, and this goes back to the kids that you were just mentioning. That's what we should be worried about. The children, American children that are going through detention centers. Get better programming. Stop worrying about other countries. Worry about what's going on here. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, but as we conclude, David, I want to thank you for being part of the Savage Unfiltered podcast here today. It's a true honor having you on, and it's very fascinating and interesting, talking to a fellow podcaster as yourself.
Sure.
So I do want to send that applaud to you, and I wish you the best of luck, in your show. And if you can, sir, tell the listeners and some of my followers on social media where they can find you at.
Yes, sir. Before I do that, I want to say it's a pleasure, it's an honor of being here on your show. I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity and the time on your show. Everyone can find me. Frazier Chronicles podcast is the podcast name. I am the face of Frazier Chronicles. I can be found on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all major podcasting platforms, and that's where I can be found. And again, it's Frazier Chronicles. It's one word. You'll find. You could just Google it, Frazier Chronicles, and it'll pop up a list of platforms that I'm on. So, yes.
I like the name. All right. Before I close it out, I like the name, Frazier.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have to ask a question. Did you get that from the actor Frazier?
No, my father's last name is Frazier. So
okay,
that's my last name. And again, Frazier Chronicles because of what's in my mind and what's going on around me, and just my own imagination on what I want to bring forward. So Frazier Chronicles with me.
All right, I got you. All right, guys, you heard today David, a.k.a. the Preacher Man, on Savage Unfiltered Podcast. Once again, David, thank you very much, and we hope to see you in the near future, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take it easy.